This is episode 577, and today we're going to be talking about 10 effective time management tips. Now, it's interesting that in actuality, we don't manage time, we manage ourselves, but the outcome, if you will, is the effectively perceiving that we manage time. Time goes whether we do it or not, whatever happens, but when we do self-management. So this could also be called 10 effective self-management tips. But in any case, have you ever thought to yourself that there just isn't enough hours in the day or felt overwhelmed at tasks facing you? I know that many of my clients come to me. If I just had more time, if I just had, they're overwhelmed, there's so much on their plate and burned out, right? All of this is rising up today, especially the burnout. And a lot of times that burnout is because we're trying to fit 1 week of work into 8 hours a day. And we just don't have the effective tools anymore, or a lot of people have let those tools slip by, whether we, again, call it self-management or time management, but we just tend to get overwhelmed. And I think that every client I talk to on a regular basis brings up somewhere along the line, time. I don't have enough time management. So with that, if you felt overwhelmed at times, this podcast can help you. This can help you with identifying some of these tips to help you manage yourself and manage time better. So the first thing to do is clarify your goals and strategy, right? When we have so many things to do, we lose track of our goal, and we can have a goal for the day, week, month, and year. But when we can clarify our goal, then when we have multiple things to choose from, the question is this going to help me get closer to my goal or help me get further away or stay neutral? If it's going to help you get closer to your goal, that would take a priority. If it's going to take away from you or keep you where you are, you could do that later, right? So we're looking at management. So I'm not saying these things can't get done, but you would want to make sure you get your tasks done that are leading to your goal first thing in the day. So if you had a daily goal, let's just say you're in sales and your daily goal is to call 10 people, but then you have a report to give to your boss, you have a presentation to give to your fellow coworkers, etc. That 10 calls have to come first. That's it. You get that done. That's your goal. Boom. Now the other stuff can happen. So without knowing what your goals are, you're going to be torn in many directions. And then at the end of the day, end of the week, end of the month, you're going to feel that you haven't accomplished anything because you don't have anything to measure it against, which is your goals. So clearly, you have to clarify your goals. And I'm just going to stop here and say that these tips, you can do these yourself. However, when you have a coach to hold you accountable for clarifying your goals, are you getting closer? And we're going to go through the other time management tips here, but a coach can help you nail this completely. Yes, you can use a friend, but if that friend is struggling for time, they may not have access to work with you on it. So I definitely would consider hiring a coach, myself or somebody else, if time management is the issue. And it may only take 3 months, 6 months to get it done. But you look at investing 6 months to get a great system of time and self-management, you can use that for the rest of your life. So number 2, focus on your priorities. So that is, once you clarify your goals, the priorities are, will this help me get closer to my goal? Another a way to look at priorities is the Eisenhower matrix, and that is urgent and important. If something, and this is a quadrant, and if something is urgent and important, that takes the number one priority because it can only be done by you. It has to be done today. No conditions, no exceptions. But when you have something important, but it's not urgent, you know, washing the dishes. Yes, it's important, but you don't have to, it's not urgent. You don't have to do that right now. Checking emails, many times we think it's urgent and important, but it really isn't. It's important, but it really isn't urgent because if you check them now or 3 hours later, there's not going to be a big difference. And think of it this way, if something is really urgent, the person will call you. So email. So we tend to focus on the wrong priorities. So when you know your top priorities, and you can look up Eisenhower Matrix. Steve Covey talked about it in his book, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. But it basically is urgent and important. Being able to discern urgent and important, urgent, not important, and do the things that are urgent and important right now, today. Schedule time. Oh my gosh. This one is so huge. I was just listening to a coach that I'm going to hire, Brian Kane. He's a mental performance coach, and he had a great YouTube about how he uses his calendar, Google Calendar, and how he insists every athlete has to use their Google Calendar. And he made a comment, and it was a comment that his mentor gave him, is success is scheduled. So success doesn't randomly happen. Success is scheduled. And that involves scheduling your time to get the success that you want. So on your Google Calendar, you can actually add multiple calendars right on there so that when you overlay them, they don't look so massive, right? But you schedule your time. If you're in sales, you schedule the time when you're going to be prospecting. You schedule the time when you're going to follow up. You schedule the time when you're going to do research. You schedule your time. If it's another profession, you schedule your time when you're going to work out. You even kind of put in your calendar when you're going to sleep so you know that's when you're going to sleep. Now, the biggest resistance that my clients have with myself about scheduling time is they think that it's just too anal, it's too controlling. Well, the analogy I like to give is that of a riverbank. A riverbank controls where the river goes, but within that time frame, you can do what the river does, whatever it wants. It flows, it does this, it does that. So if you have scheduled time for, let's say, family, it doesn't mean you have to sit down and do the same thing every time, but within that time, you can be creative and spend one, you can go for a hike, you can jump on the trampoline, you can do whatever it might be. Same thing with going to the gym. You have that scheduled, but during that time, you can do anything you want. I would suggest having a plan when you go to the gym, but the important thing is scheduling your time. When you get used to scheduling your time, you will see if you're focusing on your priorities or not, because you'll see you can add up the time. Matter of fact, I have a lot of my salespeople who I coach add up the time that they're actually talking to prospects, and then see how many hours a week they are versus all the other time. And it's shocking how little time. But when they schedule it, then they start to accelerate their success. So scheduling time. There could be a whole podcast, and on Brian Kane's video on YouTube, he talks about it. He just had this last night, and it's an hour podcast, but he talks about how to use the calendar to schedule it. And it's all based on success is scheduled. It's just not random. So look at scheduling your time effectively. Maybe, start off slow with scheduling your work days, maybe not your free time, but schedule off your work days and see how that affects your productivity and how well you feel that you are in control of your time. Just say no. That was Nancy Reagan to drugs. We want to say no to additional work. If you're at work and people come and, can you do this? Can you do this? I need you to do this task, this task. It's okay to say no. There are a lot of ways to say no without burning your career, destroying your career. One of the great ways is, clarifying what they need, how long it's going to take, what resources are required, and then you can say, you know what, I don't have that bandwidth. However, you may want to check with John. This seems to be something right up his alley. If you can find a pitch hitter for you, and refer that person to that, it's a lot easier because the person coming to you most likely wants to get something off of their desk and put it on yours, and they want to get it done as soon as possible. So they think highly of you that you can get it done. However, if you can't get it done, you want to not leave them hanging high and dry because most likely it's a boss or somebody else. But if you can refer them to another coworker to check with them, that is a great way. If not, if you're just overwhelmed, because what happens is burnout, all of this happens because we keep saying yes to stuff. And then our work goes from 8 hours to 9 to 10 to 12, and then we bring it home with us. And if you're at home already, then for gosh sakes, you probably go to 10, 11, 12 at night, and you're working basically two full-time jobs, but only being paid for one. So we have to learn to say no, and we have to learn to be confident in why we're saying no, and to say no because it's our own health. If you get burned out, you're not going to do yourself, your company, your family any good. So by saying no, you are protecting yourself, you're using your energy accordingly, and you're able to be a better team player, have more production at work, hit peak performance, and it's just by saying no. Create support systems, whether that is in your work, your friends, through Facebook. There's actually a wonderful app out there called Habit Share. So if you want to start to create new habits that support time management, it's a free download both for Apple and Android. You download Habit Share, you put in the habits that you want to be held accountable for, and you share it with a friend who has that habit share also, and then they can start to support you and hold you accountable. And it can be, something as simple as I'm going to have a habit of having breakfast every morning because breakfast is great and we want to have that time management for it. And you skip it a few times, your friend will see it and they'll help you with it. So Habit Share is a great app for a support system, but also coaching is a support system. Your friends, your family are a support system. When we want to have effective time management, what we really want is somebody to reflect back to us what we're doing correctly and what we can stop doing. If we try to do it ourselves, we just don't see ourselves in the same light as others see us. So look at creating a support system, whether it's through virtual, through something like Habit Share or Facebook, if you want to create a group, a support group, or just your friends. But make sure when you have that support system in place, you check in with them regularly and ask the same for them. Be a support system for them. Just don't take, give as well. Number 6, take a reality check. When we set goals, we'll go back to number 1 here, goals. We often overestimate how much we can get done and underestimate the time that it's going to take. And we keep doing it over and over and over again. For instance, if you clean out your garage twice a year, and every year it takes you 4 hours, and you go, I'm going to clean out the garage this weekend. It's only going to take me an hour. Is that reality? Based on the past, no, it's not. So you may want to extend that time frame to 4 hours. If you get it done quicker, great. But you need to take a reality check on your time. Are you spending time on the right things? Are you busy or are you productive? Are you estimating the time it takes to do those things, especially at work when you're working on a project, or if you happen to say yes after somebody asks you to do something? Did you account for it correctly? We often underestimate how long something is going to take. So my advice when I work with clients is, they'll say, I'm going to take on this project. They go, how long do you think it's going to take? And they say 2 days. They go, give yourself 4. I double what we think it's going to take, because that is usually what it does take. But we need to get a reality check on our priorities, on saying no, on all of that. And it's just take back and look at it from a non-emotional perspective. Is this really realistic on whatever the goal may be, whatever the task may be? Delegate. As we say no to things, we can also delegate to other people. Now, there's a whole art and science in delegation. It's just not, hey, can you do this for me? Or if you're a boss, hey, do this for me. There is some conditions we need to make sure that are in place, such as, does the person have the time? Does the person have the knowledge? Does the person have the motivation to do those things? But that's, again, a separate podcast, and the part of my coaching as well is, but when you can delegate, that frees up that time, or it may not free up time, but it doesn't double book you anymore. So learning the art of delegation, whether it's with family, with your significant other, hey, honey, I'm running late. Can you stop off at the grocery store and get the food for tonight? That's a sense delegation if you said that you were going to do it, but if time runs, then you delegate. And to a significant other, that might sound so cold, but it's asking a favor, but it's also delegating. So that is a great way. That's the opposite side of the coin of no, is to delegate. Then you find out what works and repeat your success. When things are duplicatable, when you have a success system in place that condenses time, that compacts times, right? There's effective and efficient. Effective is doing the right things. Efficiency is doing those things right. And so when you can repeat your success, you kind of shorten time because you know what to do, you know how to do it, and you repeat it. This is why tracking, you know, in weights or in sales and stuff is important, because you can track what you're doing and does it work. And you get to a point where when it works great, you just repeat it over and over again. And this can be done in any type of a career that you have, or even personal time. But you want to repeat your success, and the only way you repeat it is by knowing it, and the only way you know it is by tracking it. Yes, it may take a little bit of time in the beginning, but once you track your process, you'll then be able to fine tune it and then dial it in and keep repeating your success. Balance or harmonize your life. Balance. So, we want to make sure that we have time for family, for friends, for ourselves, for our spiritual practices, for our workout. We can go back to the wheel of life that many coaches use, but the key to understand is you can't fit it all in one day, right? That's the reality check. You can't fit it all. But over a period of a week and a month, you can figure all those things out. You can. So the balance may occur on a monthly basis, but if you try to fix balance in your life on a daily basis, that's probably not realistic. But over a longer period of time, you can. But you have to plan that balance out, right? That gets back to using your calendar. Balancing your life, plan it out ahead of time so you know when you're going to spend time with the family, when you're going to spend time with yourself, when you're going to do your spiritual practice. When you can schedule that time out ahead of time, you then, because it's in the future, you can basically control the future, and then you can bring your life into balance. And then end the day. When the day is done, the day is done. Make sure you, again, schedule the end of day. If it's 10 o'clock, at 9:45, you turn off the TV, you create a nighttime or a PM habit, a nighttime ritual. And you start to do that and say, the end of the day comes at 9:45. I stop this, I sit, I think, I reflect, I journal my gratitudes, and then I go into bed. I leave my phone off, unless you use it for an alarm, and then you turn upside down, but you turn the ringer off, and you create a positive ritual to go to bed. But when the day is over, you determine when that day is over, and again, be realistic. When the day is over, the day is over. That's it. Done deal. Get some sleep. Wake up. So, just keep in mind, time management helps you prioritize your tasks so that you ensure to have enough time available to complete every project with ease, right? And so the quality of your work increases when you're not rushing to complete it ahead of a fast approaching deadline. And that's for work specifically, but that can also go for areas in your life. So if you'd like to see these show notes and take a look at some other podcasts and blog posts, you can visit warriormindcoach.com for more useful information. And while you're on the internet, please follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest under Warrior Mind Coach.